How do you keep your emotions in check, right? So let's look at this topic in numerous ways. Number one, how do you do that? Number two, would you hire someone emotional or passionate? Let's talk about some of the benefits of people that are emotional. And, finally, like, how do you handle someone that is emotional, right? So first of all, what are the positives of an emotional person? Like hiring someone that's, let's call it passionate.
Well, you always kind of know what they're thinking and where they stand. Mm-hmm. So I think you never have to guess if you're able to read their emotions, but it can also have its downfall because if they cry easily, that can just be awkward. So
good one. I never thought of it from that point of view, like emotional in the sense they are soft and they cry.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you kind of paint all the scenarios, right? So that's one. That's a good one. They're emotional in the sense that something happens, they lose a customer and they're like really, really upset.
Right.
Or they take it really seriously, or they get a cancellation and they take it really seriously, or someone, resigns or quits, they take it seriously, right? So, all of the ups and downs that come along with working for a company, they are very quickly like their cage is rattled, right? Whereas someone, very, very reserved, all those things happen, but they express the same level of emotions, meaning like none, right? Mm-hmm. So let's look at all of the whole full cycle when it comes to emotions. So the emotional in terms of crying, in terms of, happy when things are going great, sad when things are going, negative. There's some, negative KPIs that are taking it very, very seriously. You can see that they're really down because, they let their team down or the company down. What are some of the positives of it? So you expressed one. How about you guys?
Well, I think to Keisha's point, if somebody is emotional and, they're in a space where it's negative emotion, it's easier to identify and encourage and try and assist with modifying that kind of behavior, right? Whereas somebody who's just neutral all the way through, you don't know what are they happy in their job? Mm-hmm. Are they passionate about their job? Mm-hmm. But I think there are certain types of occupations where it lends itself to be emotional. Mm-hmm. Primarily, creative types of jobs, obviously, I think benefit from a more emotional personality. Whereas, your standard gatekeeper type of role, middle manager, it's probably a pretty good idea to have somebody neutral. Mm-hmm. And you'll deal with a lot less employee problems. Speaking as an employment lawyer, you'll deal with a lot less employee problems with that type of person who's in charge of a department.
Yeah.
There was an employee that I had where it was an IT, and he was doing well, very knowledgeable. So one day I had a chat with him because there was a pretty big issue in the company. I forgot exactly. Actually, I do remember, but I don't want to get into it right now. And the person seemed like they didn't even care. Mm-hmm. That's what it seemed like, right? So after everything kind of settled and things were in the right track, I had a chat with him saying, "Hey, person, right? I'm not gonna say his name. I was a little bit disappointed in how you acted in that situation. Like the server was down, people can't work, phones weren't working. There was 1 hour of downtime. You saw everyone's getting, tense. There's a lot of phone calls, but you just like acted like no big deal, right?" So he made this comment of like, "Z, I was like inside, I was like I was full of anxiety. I just don't show it, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that I didn't care. I was burning inside. I was embarrassed. I was A, B, and C, right? So, I'm like, oh, I didn't see any of that, right? Like, how am I supposed to like manage you if I can't see, that you care or you're down, right? So, do you have experiences, Kurt, with people that were either overly emotional or very obvious in terms of their emotions, and others that were like extremely reserved?
I had one employee, and she was emotional, but I think it was just a situation where when she didn't perform up to a certain level, she took it very hard on herself. She was very passionate about performing at a certain level, and when it didn't happen, she just broke down. Mm-hmm. So we'd have to have these meetings and get her back in check, really, and just in line and say, "Listen, this happens. I just need to continue to move forward. Don't allow this to impact how you're going to work for the rest of the day, because that's what happens sometimes with emotional people. Something happens in the like early in the day, they can't function for the rest of the day. Their productivity is down like around 80%. It's almost like a wasted day, right? So there's the challenges there, but as a manager, this is where your skill sets come into play, and this is where they talk about the 7 positives for every negative. You've done this well, you've done this well. Right. I like how you continue to do this. I understand this didn't happen here, but don't allow it to negate everything that you've done positively, and that's how you bring them back around. But again, it's hard. It's hard because, again, I've seen it on the other side where somebody's been very emotional, and unfortunately HR gets involved because of how they felt they were being spoken to, right? And I'm pretty sure Jason's probably seen and had to see something like that, but it happens. So it's very hard, and this is where the skill set of a manager could determine if you're dealing with somebody like that who could potentially go the HR route, or somebody who just needs to be, given that confidence boost to get back on board and just keep going. Because again, certain roles, things are going to happen. Nothing's perfect. It's how you react to that hiccup is what's going to define you as a person, in my opinion.
Good point on the, someone's productivity like done for the day or the couple of days. And I've seen a bit of that in the last few weeks. Surprised that something so small could impact them so much where, so I think in that sense, I would not want to hire that type of person again. But there is times where, the first thing I was thinking about in this segment was so many people that were like extremely passionate, they cared so much, like it's almost like it's their own company or their own money or their own thing. That's the passion I love, where, we lose and they care more about losing or losing a customer or like, not meeting the KPI, where everyone's 5 o'clock to go home, right? Like, so if you can like hire more of those people that like, be the biggest cheerleader for your company, and like, when we lose or when the company doesn't do well or the department doesn't do well for a week or a month or a quarter, and they really feel down, it's like, they let themselves down and the whole company down. Those are the people I would love to hire, right? It's the people that were like maybe prima donnas where they feel they're entitled, and if we don't always, coddle them or baby them, and we have to reap the negatives of every time something doesn't go their way, and we have to like kind of like handle it with kid gloves or walk in eggshells, as one of my old bosses used to always say. I would choose not to hire that person.